What are Stinger missiles? How far can a Stinger missile go? How effective are they and when are they used? Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we'll be educating you about the FIM-92 Stinger shoulder-fired anti-aircraft missile. Before we get into the video, kindly note that the information provided in this video is for educational purposes only. Without further ado, let's dive in. The FIM-92A Stinger missile is designed to provide ground forces with a means of dealing with low-flying planes and helicopters. The Stinger is a 15-kilogram shoulder-mounted missile that employs an infrared sensor to find an aircraft by its heat. It was developed by the United States Army in the 1980s. The M1097 Avenger and the M6 Linebacker can also launch the FIM-92B missile. The missile may also be launched from a Humvee Stinger rack and is capable of being utilized by airborne forces. The air-to-air Stinger is a helicopter launch variant. The missile is 5 feet long with a diameter of 2.8 inches and fins of 3.9 inches. The missile itself weighs 22 pounds, whereas the missile with its launch tube and inbuilt sight, as well as grip stock and an IFF antenna, weighs around 34 pounds. It can attack low-altitude enemy threats at a range of up to 3,800 meters and has an outward targeting range of 4,800 meters. A small ejection motor propels the Stinger away from the operator before engaging the main two-stage solid fuel sustainer, which accelerates it to Mach 2.54. The warhead is a penetrating hit-to-kill annular blast fragmentation type with an impact fuse and a self-destruct timer weighing 6.6 pounds. A BCU is put into the grip stock to fire the missile. A thermal battery supplies power for target acquisition, and a supply of liquid argon is fed into the seeker to cool it to operating temperature. If the missile has not been fired, a single BCU provides power and coolant for around 45 seconds before another must be introduced. Because of the leaking pressurized liquid argon, the BCUs are susceptible to misuse and have a short shelf life. The IFF system is powered by a rechargeable battery that is included with the IFF interrogator box and plugs into the pistol grip base. The missile is guided to the target using proportional navigation at first, but then switches to another mode that guides the missile towards the target airframe rather than its exhaust plume. The Stinger Basic, Stinger Passive Optical Seeker Technique, and Stinger Reprogrammable Microprocessor are the three primary variations in use. The FIM-92A, FIM-92B, and FIM-92C, and later variations are represented by these letters. The post includes a dual detector seeker that detects infrared and ultraviolet light. It can differentiate targets from countermeasures far better than the REDEYE and the FIM-92A, which relies solely on infrared. Although the IR signal of modern flares can be very similar to that of the launching of aircraft engines exhaust, the UV signature of flares and jet engines is easily different. The Stinger RMP gets its name from the fact that it can load fresh software via a ROM chip inserted in the grip at the depot. If the missile's download fails during power-up, rudimentary functionality is provided by the onboard ROM. Each CPU in the 4-processor RMP has 4 kilobytes of RAM. Because the download code runs in RAM, there isn't much room for spare processors, especially those dedicated to seeker input processing and target analysis. In dependability and training testing, the Stinger Reprogrammed Microprocessor, or RMP, the missile has a better than 90% success rate. The weapon's supersonic speed, agility, and very precise guidance and control system offer it an operational advantage over cruise missiles and all types of aircraft. General Dynamics developed the missile as an enhanced version of their 1967 FIM-43 REDEYE missile. The REDEYE was produced from 1969 to 1982 with an estimated total output of 85,000 missiles. The US Army selected the program for continued development as REDEYE 2 in 1971 and designated FIM-92. The Stinger moniker was chosen in 1972. The first shoulder launch did not occur until mid-1975 due to technical issues that necessitated extensive testing. The FIM-92A has been made in production since 1978. The FIM-92B, an enhanced Stinger with a redesigned seeker, was produced alongside the FIM-92A starting in 1983. With roughly 16,000 missiles built, both the A and B varieties were phased out in 1987. The development of the alternative FIM-92C began in 1984, and production began in 1987. In 1989, the first prototypes were given to the frontline battalions. A reprogrammable microprocessor was included in the C-type missiles, enabling gradual firmware changes. Later, D-designed missiles got enhancements to improve their ability to defeat countermeasures, while later upgrades to the D-marked missiles were labeled G. The FIM-92E, also known as Block 1, was created in 1992 and was delivered in 1995, according to some sources. The FIM-92D is also said to be a part of the Block 1 development. The sensor and software were the key upgrades that improved the missile's performance against low-signature targets. Block 2 development began in 1996 with the use of new focal plane array sensors to improve the missile's efficacy in high cluttered settings and expand the engagement range to around 25,000 feet. The film was supposed to be released in 2004, but Jane reports that it may have been postponed. Since 1984, many US Navy warships have been equipped with the Stinger for point defense, primarily in Middle Eastern waters, with a 3-man crew that can perform other duties when the Stinger is not being trained or maintained. The US Navy operated at least one Stinger gunnery detachment connected to Beachmaster Unit 2 in Little Creek, Virginia, until it was disbanded in September 1993. The Stingers made its combat debut during the Falklands War between Argentina and the United Kingdom. Soldiers in the British Army's Special Air Service were secretly outfitted with 6 missiles at the start of the battle, despite receiving no training in order how to deploy them. On May 19th, the only SAS trooper who had received training on the system was scheduled to educate other troops was killed in a helicopter crash. Nonetheless, on May 21, 1982, a SAS soldier attacked an Argentine Pucara ground attack plane with a Stinger and shot it down. On May 30th at about 11 a.m., an Aerospatiale SA-330 Puma helicopter was shot down in the vicinity of Mount Kent by another SAS missile. 6 members of the National Gendarmerie Special Forces were murdered, while another 8 were injured. The blowpipe missile was the main manpads employed by both sides during the Falklands War. Between 1986 and 1989, the Reagan administration sent 310 Stingers to JONAS SAVIMBI'S UNITA movement in Angola. Following the end of hostilities in Afghanistan, efforts to retrieve missiles were ineffective. A Stinger's battery lasts for 4 to 5 years, so any battery delivered in the 1980s is no longer functional. Insurgents demonstrated how readily they switched to different batteries, including common car batteries, as power sources for several manpad variants during the Syrian Civil War. For operations in Chad, the French army used 15 fire sites and 30 missiles purchased in 1983. On September 10, 1987, the 35th Parachute Artillery Regiment fired an unsuccessful shell during a Libyan bombardment, and on July 7, 1988, it shot down a Hercules transport plane. When Libya invaded the northern half of the African country, the Chadian authorities got Stinger missiles from the US. A Libyan Su-22 Mach was shot down by a FIM-92A launched by Chadian forces on October 8, 1987. Captain Dia al-Din, the pilot, ejected and was apprehended. Later, the French government granted him political refuge. A Libyan MiG-23 MS was shot down by a FIM-92A during the recovery mission. During the 1992-97 Tajik Civil War, Tajik Islamist opposition forces operating from Afghanistan confronted a massive air campaign launched by Russia and Uzbekistan to prop up the government in Dushanbe, which included border and cross-border attacks. On May 3, 1993, a Sukhoi Su-24M was shot down by extremists using a Stinger during one of these raids. Both Russian pilots were rescued and reunited with their families. Russian officials have reported that the Chechen militia and insurgents have US-made Stinger missiles on various occasions. They blamed the American manpads for a couple of their aviation losses. Photo evidence indicated the presence of such missiles, despite the fact that their exact quantity and origin were unknown. During the Second Chechen War, one Sukhoi Su-24 is thought to have been shot down with a Stinger missile. On November 10, 1997, the Liberation Tigers at Tamil Alam acquired one or more Stingers, perhaps from the former Mujahideen stocks, and used at least one of them to shoot down a Sri Lanka Airforce Mi-24. In the year 2000, the United States had 13,400 missiles in its inventory. The program entire cost is $7,281 million. The United States Secret Service is said to have Stinger missiles to defend the president, which has never been proven. In the case of an assault, however, the United States Secret Service plans to advocate transferring the president to a safer location rather than shooting down the jet for fear that the missile or wreckage of the targeted aircraft will harm innocent people. The Stinger was deployed to help many US-aligned guerrilla factions in the 1980s, including the Afghan Mujahideen, Chad's government against Libya invasion, and Angolan's UNITA. The Nicaraguan Contras were not giving the Stingers because of the Sandinista government's lack of fixed-wing aircrafts, so the previous version of the FIM-43 REDEYE was deemed sufficient. What do you think about the Stinger missile origin and history? Do let us know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, please check out our other videos.